Yes, so hi everyone, and thank you for joining this very interesting topic. So my name is Roger Vendôme. I live in Toronto, Canada. I'm currently in France, and I'm a mathematician specialized in AI. I worked on predictive modeling and what was not called AI for approximately 30 years. I created my own company in Toronto 10 years ago, and I help institutions, companies to implement AI, to understand what it is and implement it. Okay, so my purpose tonight, as an introduction, is to make sure that we are going to have a fruitful discussion on AI by knowing what it is really. So my challenge is in 10 minutes to make sure that everybody will understand where it's coming from, what it is not, what it does and what it doesn't. Because there are a lot of myths that are floating around AI. So the first thing is where AI is coming from. Two things. The first one is that we, human beings, are obliged to make decisions. It's mandatory. We have to make decisions in order to live and to evolve. The second thing is that we have absolutely no idea what the future is going to be. Without this knowledge, we are condemned to decide in uncertainty. And this decision in uncertainty is generating a lot of anxiety. So for ages, humans always tried to know what the future is going to be. We have been doing that by crystal balls, cards, planets, everything, with more or less success, until one day in France in 1654, this guy, Blaise Pascal, in order to help one of his friends who was an avid gambler, discovered the modern probabilities. It is a mathematical way to compute what is the probability for an event to happen in the future. And that changed the world. So then that's the solution that we had since this time. And the math basically didn't really evolve, but it didn't change. The principle is always the same and led to predictive modeling. So based on one very big hypothesis, we are looking for repetitive patterns. We look in the past. The hypothesis is that if an event A in the past has a consequence B in the present, the same event A in the present will have the same consequence B in the future. We can project observation in the future. It's a big hypothesis, but it works. So based on that, and starting with this hypothesis, we developed many different possibilities and many stages in the evolution of data science. We'll start, in order to understand it, we start with the descriptive statistics. It's just a matter of looking at what we have today. It's usually a matter of calculating the mean and the dispersion. And it is visualized by graphs, so pie charts, histograms, etc. So what do I have today? What do I see? What are the proportions of things that I see in front of me? The next step is the diagnostic analysis. I have a knowledge of the present. Now I'm going to look at the past. And I try to find correlations between the past and the present. Can I explain on somewhat what I see today with things that happened in the past? And that will help me understand what it is. And that is the world of business intelligence. Can I make a decision with that? Unfortunately not. And it's the limits of business intelligence, because in order to make a decision, I need the future. So far, I talked about the present and the past. What I'm missing is the future. I need this probability of occurrence in the future in order to make an educated decision. That's what I need as a decision maker. And that is happening only with the predictive analytics. With the predictive analytics, I will look at the past, I will mathematically project it in the future with a formula that will give me the probability for this event to happen in the future. And that will help me to make an educated decision, the best possible educated decision. Then you have more sophisticated is the prescriptive analytics. It's exactly the same thing, but opposite. If by a given present, I can compute the probability of having a future, if I inverse it, I can decide what I want in the future and then know what I have to change in my present in order to increase the probability of my future to happen. That is mostly happening, for example, in marketing. If I want to increase the proportion of sales in the future, I will, through those math, decide what do I have to change today in order to increase this probability of sales. Do I have to change price? Do I have to change my presentations, my product, my features, etc.? Then when that is done, we have the autonomous system. It means that then we have a relationship with the machine, and the machine is starting to be autonomous. It means that it's collecting the data, understand what is today, look at the past, analyze the past, project it in the future, compute the probabilities, make a decision and execute the decision. This is really AI. We remove the human from the collection of the data to execution of the decision. The human is still computing and is still computing the code. So the human is always there, but in the execution, it has been removed. So that is the evolution of what we are saying with it. How does it work? And it's important to understand a little bit of math. Two things, correlation and regression. What you see here is the observation of two variables that are correlated. You have y and x, and you see that when x is increasing, y is increasing in the same time. It's called a positive correlation. The two is increasing. It can be the height and the weight. It can be the consumption of an engine because of the power, but we see two things that are evolving. If I want to predict y when I have x, here I have a knowledge that I can infer, but if I have x here, my y is a little bit all over the place. I will have to find a way to summarize it. And I do that by what we call the regression. I will draw a line that will summarize the relationship. Then, with the formula of the line, if I have x, I can infer a value of y that is close enough to the reality. It will be my margin of error that will be accepted. How do I decide this line? How do I know that this line is the right one? What I do, I will compute for all possible lines, I will compute the distance between every single point and the line. I will sum the distance, and I will decide that the best line is the one that has the lowest sum of all the distance. Why do I explain you that? Is because what we do there, which is the simplest possible model, a linear regression, we just compute distances. And what is very important to understand and to know is that even with the most sophisticated algorithm you have today, even in generative AI, the only thing we do is to compute distances, nothing else. We just compute distances between observations, points, vectors. It's important to keep that in mind. That's the way it works. It's only math and only computation of distance. Then doing that, we have plenty of possible algorithms. So just to understand well and to go rather fast on it, you have supervised and unsupervised. Forget the unsupervised is mainly here. It's mainly creating segments. Yeah, it's mainly creating some segments. What is important to remember is that you have regressions that are the projection of numbers. It's going to predict numbers, the price of a stock, the number of water that is going to rain or something like that. The classifications are going to predict the belonging to a class. Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Is it a tree? Is it sick or it is not? It's important to make the difference between the two because we are going to use mostly classifications and in there mostly here neural networks. What is a neural network and how it works? It's basically trying to replicate what is happening in the brain when you have a signal that is going in the brain cell, transformed and passed to the other one. We do the same thing. We have data that is coming in a line of code, is going to be transformed by a transformation formula, and is going to pass or not. When we have that and we have been able to predict plenty of things, the next step was to make the computer and the algorithm more human-like. And the two things were important. It was to see and to talk. So now how can we treat an image and words with a computer because it's recognizing only numbers and vectors and matrices? First, for the image, is very easy. Image is made by pixel. Every pixel on an image has 5 dimensions, X and Y, which is the position of the pixel, and the color in 3 dimensions, red, green, and blue, on a number between 1 and 0 and 255. So then you have matrices on 5 dimensions that you can use in the computation, and you can look at repetitive patterns in order to understand what is an image. Language is way more complicated. And what we have to understand is before we have been able to do that, you had a lot of people during a lot of time in universities and laboratories that have been transforming every single word in every single language in a vector, a matricial vector in many dimensions. How many letters? What is it? Is it a verb, a noun, a pronoun, an adverb, or an adjective? Where is it in the sentence? What is the probability of a word before and a word after? And you create then vectors in matrices that are very, very complex. 10 years ago, these vectors were 200 or 300 variables, dimensions. Today, with ChatGPT 4, it's 20 million dimensions. And the parameters in the algorithms are around 5 billion. So that gives you an idea of the large language model they are doing and the precision that is representing. So the next step that we are leading today is what we call the generative AI. When we are not only predicting, but we are generating content. We are generating words, we are generating images, we are generating sound. How it is done, it is exactly the same thing that we did so far. We are looking at matricial vectors in different dimensions, and we look at what is the probability for a word to be after the other. So you have to be very careful when you interact with a generative AI. It will talk to you, it will understand what you say, but it is not a human. It is just a computer that is looking at matrices, vectors, numbers, computing distances, and will compute the probability for a word to happen after the other. Has no idea what is a letter, no idea what is a word, has no feelings, has no sentiments, doesn't know what it says. Just numbers, compute just numbers, parameters, and vectors. That's all it is. But it works, and it works very well.
Thank you, Roger. I think it's a good clarification. So to have the maybe the other side of the coin, let's maybe listen to Marwa and talk about human agency and human AI collaboration. So what is the state of the art about this?
Hi everyone, I am a cognitive neuroscientist, and in the last years I have conducted the research on human behavior in social contexts and on group decision making. Now, recently I joined Humans Matter to dedicate my efforts to applied research at the intersection between cognitive science and behavioral transitions in society in various domains that include organizations and education. Considering the human factor is indeed crucial in all societal domains to achieve successful outcomes, whether it pertains to human welfare, well-being, collaborative innovation, or economic development and growth. Cognitive and behavioral sciences explore this human factor by delving into human functioning and behaviors through diverse disciplines, including psychology, neuroscience, computer science, evolutionary biology, philosophy, and in recent years, artificial intelligence. Now, the reason I was drawn to working at Humans Matter is their approach to facilitating behavioral transitions. They focus on developing agency, people's ability to act, which can in turn hopefully contribute to long-term sustainable changes. This approach does not stop at changing the environments to induce behavioral change. Of course, this step is essential. We have to change environments. But the novelty here is to also provide individuals with the necessary tools to undergo these changes and be active agents in societal and organizational transitions. Now, this approach falls within the framework of boosting competences and fostering agency, and importantly, agency in social contexts, so collective agency, by targeting socio-cognitive skills including self-control, emotional and collective intelligence. This becomes particularly relevant in the context of societal transitions that are associated with the development of artificial intelligence. One of the behaviors most significantly impacted here is indeed agency, or what is referred to in research on the topic as the sense of agency. Now let's start by defining the sense of agency to answer this question of how do human-AI interactions influence human agency. The sense of agency is defined as people's feeling of control over their actions, decisions, and their outcomes. To measure the sense of agency, researchers use either explicit reports, like how much in control you feel for this decision, this outcome, or more implicit measures. And studies have shown that indeed the sense of agency is impacted by the use of AI. When automated systems assist someone, for example in piloting a plane, this person's sense of agency will decrease proportionally to the amount of AI support received. Interestingly, this change in agency can also translate to the more complex notion of moral responsibility. Individuals appear capable of attributing responsibility to AI during collaborative interactions with AI assistants. For example, when driving a car. So people will feel less responsible for actions and their outcomes and attribute part of the responsibility to the AI. This reduction in agency and responsibility does not, however, occur at any time or in any context. It can be modulated by factors like the given status of an AI. So if you frame the AI as being a supervisor or a peer or a subordinate, or by how much people perceive the AI as being an agent. So no such effect would be observed if it's just a simple mechanistic device assisting. I just described how AI influences our sense of agency, but it is important to note here that other people, so not AIs, we collaborate with, will also influence our agency. So we similarly share responsibility with others, and we can feel less in control for our actions when acting or deciding together. Now it becomes interesting to compare human-human collaboration to AI-human collaborations. It has been shown that even if people offload responsibility onto an AI advisor, they will still do so more with a human advisor. So it does matter if the assistant is a human. And related to this, people seem unable to reach what is referred to as we agency, we for we together, we, with computers as they can in human collaboration. This we agency is a state that people can achieve during a successful collaboration that helps them maintain agency because it is now attributed to their group and not to themselves. And understanding the conditions that allow AI-human collaboration to reach this we agency and thereby preserve their sense of agency could be key to successful AI-humans interactions. And while our aim in society should be to facilitate those interactions, there of course are risks to AI-human collaboration. The list is long, and this is not the focus of my intervention, but I will mention some. While AI-human collaboration can clearly improve performance in certain domains that are in the current expertise of AI, it can decrease group diversity, which can pose a potential risk to collaborative innovation, as it could lead to more homogeneous thinking driven by AI use. Also, it's important to acknowledge the ongoing discussion and research around AI biases. AI systems are trained on human data, and this human data carries cognitive biases of us humans. And in addition to this, the data might not be representative. Consequently, AI can perpetuate inequalities. Addressing these issues is essential for ensuring ethical and equitable deployment of AI in various domains. And one last point I would like to mention here is that AI assistance has been linked to decreased collaboration with other human peers and could result in changes in social norms about cooperation, which highlights the importance of keeping a focus on the social and moral consequences and not only how to achieve best performance. So all of these factors centered around human behaviors, their feelings, emotions, and needs are essential to be taken into consideration when designing and implementing AIs in organizations and educational institutions. Importantly, people who constitute those institutions, the employees, managers, students, or teachers, should be at the center and active agents involved in those designs and implementations.
So it's our job is really to build the bridges between what we start to understand more and more and better on the human functioning as a cognitive being, let's say, and the effect that can be created by those new interactions. So there has been a lot that has been said, but for me, what we can get out of this presentation is that the topic is not to ask yourself what AI can do for you, but what you want to do with it. It's quite a simple way to a simple takeaway. Basically, you have, in my opinion, you have two main choices. Whether you decide to delegate some cognitive tasks to AI, like, I don't know, creating marketing contents to build on the SEO of search engines. It's a cognitive task to create some contents, etc. And you can delegate that type of tasks to AI. You can delegate a task of sorting some resume when you want to hire someone. That's a cognitive task. You need to make an evaluation of those information to take a decision. The first choice is to delegate that type of task with the objective of freeing up some brain time. You will say, okay, if people are doing less of that type of tasks, they will have more time to think about something else. There are two problems in that hypothesis. The first one, and this first hypothesis, this first choice is maybe the most appealing. Okay, it will be great. We will have much more time to do interesting stuff, etc. But there are two problems in that options. The first one is that you have to look at the data and the facts. The thing is that some studies are saying that we have 8 times more brain time than at the start of the 19th century. 8 times more. It's absolutely huge. But at the same time, you have some rising mental health issues. You have, anyway, I won't draw the black picture of that. It could be depressing. But the thing is that, and why is it happening? First, as human beings, we are not designed to be idle. We are not designed not to do anything of our lives. We are designed to take actions, to build out something, and to make sense out of our existence. So if we are just here not doing anything, we won't live that in a good way, actually. We are designed to do things, to build things, to tell stories, etc., etc. The second part is that the more we have free brain time, the more it is attacked by the outside, because we are not living in a bubble. We are living in an environment of a lot of information, ads, etc., etc. So basically, our brain is always under attack, always under attack. That's a fact. And it's not because we have more free time in our brain or free attentional space than as a matter of consequence, we will use it in a more productive, positive, and beneficial way. So it might not be the good option to say, okay, first strategy, delegate some cognitive tasks because it will let us be more, I don't know, creative, positive, benevolent, etc., etc. That's not what is happening when we look at historical data. That's not what is happening, I'm sorry. The second possible strategy is to think about how do you extend yourself with the use of that type of tool, but I will say in a few seconds that is not only tools actually. So really asking yourself how you can extend your intelligence and your agency with the use of that type of technologies. So that means that first of all, you need to think about what you want to do with it and not only go adopt the tool and see what it provides you. But first, think about what you want to do with it, be very intentional with the use of those technologies. And I said maybe it's a tool, but actually, in my opinion, AI and more this generation of generative AI, they are not mere tools, actually. We can really consider them as cognitive agents. They are producing something, and they are producing something that we think is the singularity of human being, producing language. Before the vast deployment of ChatGPT, we thought only human beings can produce language. Now we realize that machines can produce language with quite a good level of reliability and meaningfulness in what they're saying. Sometimes there is some hallucinations. Maybe you have experienced that. Huh? Most of the generative AI, sometimes they hallucinate. They are inventing facts. But still, they can produce language. They can also create stuff. Huh? When you use, I don't know, Midjourney, DALL-E, or whatever, they are creating stuff. It's original creations. They are producing things that were not existing before. Before that, we were thinking it was only human beings that were able to do that. So, of course, as Roger was saying, it's only probability, very complex and dense probability, but with a quite smart use of probabilities, it is now doing some tasks that we thought before was only for human beings. So this is really a massive disruption. In my opinion, it's really a massive disruption because it's not only tools, actually. They are really cognitive agents. So now the choice we have is, do we develop, as Marwa was saying, this we agency or this co-agency with them, or are we okay to say, take out some of our agency out of us, work, do some tasks and some cognitive tasks and free up some of our time to do that, but we don't know what will be the consequences. If we look at the facts, we know that it's not because we have more brain time that we live better.
And I don't know, Roger, if you want to react to this one. Maybe one of the question that it raises, it's our relationship to uncertainty, right? So what is the level of uncertainty that we are able to allow for ourselves? Roger, I don't know if you want to react to this.
Yes, there are different points that have been that we started there. The first one is the need to understand and to decide what we want AI to do for us. And that is since the beginning. And in AI, it has actually a name. It's called the cost function. Because it is first designed to help us to decide in uncertainty, it means that we will always have to decide of a trade-off on a cost-benefit function because of the uncertainty. So what do I have to lose? What do I have to gain? And this trade-off between the two is expressed by the cost function. So it's a mathematical function that will express what do we want to do? What is the threshold of our acceptation of risk, and what do we want this AI to execute, and how? So that is absolutely fundamental. We cannot build an AI if the user of AI doesn't define very clearly, very accurately, what this AI needs to do and how. So that is fundamental, and we cannot escape that, because we are in control and AI is at our service. So we control it, we decide what it does and how it does it. We have to be very careful about the conception or the idea that generative AI is creating things. Generative AI is very new. Predictive modeling is existing for approximately 10,000 years. Probabilities since 1654. AI started in the 60s. Computation just after the war with Turing. Big data 10 years ago. Machine learning 5 years ago. And generative AI 1 year ago. So that is very, very recent. We don't have a lot of distance on that. And generative AI has a tendency to blurry a little bit the lines there. It was very clear what AI was doing before. It was just helping us to make a good educated decision or execute the decision for us. Now that this AI is seeing and talking to us, it is blurring a little bit the lines there. We have a tendency to think that it is actually creating something. But I believe, I can be wrong, but I believe that there is a fundamental difference, is that we human, first, we conceive an idea, and then we express it with a language that we invented and created. Then you have an AI that is creating a sentence by probabilities of putting words after the other based on computation of mathematical vectors. And when it is delivered to us, we give a sense to it because those are words that we understand. But the sense was not created by the computer. So it is not really creating a language or a content. It is reorganizing a content that has been taught before and given. There is a huge corpus of teaching. And it's this reservoir of already made text that is used in order to pick and create something that is the most probable sentence in this context. So I think we have to be very, very careful with that. In this, I think, danger to humanize a little bit too much what is generative AI and AI usually.
Thank you, Roger. We'll transition to the next panel. Now we know a bit more about. Okay, we start discussing the condition to create maybe a more sustainable cohabitation between AI and humans, seeing a bit of the opportunities and the risks that are tied to this collaboration. It can enable us to now discuss concretely what are the impacts for like various sectors. So please join us, and we'll get started with you, dear panelists. So the idea is really to address the so what, right? Okay, we set the stage about what is AI, what is it not actually, how is it interfacing with humans? So what for your scope, on your scope? So maybe Marc, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, very nice. Thank you, Mathieu, and very nice to meet you all today. So I'm coming from Toronto, and I'm here with my colleagues to talk to you about how do we apply this? What does that mean in our practice? We're all practitioners here. I'm a former teacher, and my career led me to the Ministry of Education in Ontario, where the government of Ontario invested a lot in education. During that period of time, we significantly increased Ontario's student success, the results on international rankings, year after year. We had about 100 delegations visiting Ontario to see how we're doing. So that was an exciting experience. I was the leading person on the tech, so involved in revising the curriculum, launching e-learning Ontario, moving the Ministry of Education to software as a service, and then later on being borrowed for a year to the entire government to procure SaaS for the broader public sector. And 10 years ago, I moved to the private sector. I jumped the fence because at some point in government, you are very dependent on the weather, and the weather is the political weather. So sometimes, political priorities change. So I wanted to keep moving faster and develop a passion for digital transformation, moving at Cisco, and then more recently on the consulting side, advising the government of Canada or governments, state and federal, on strengthening the digital economy. So developed a passion for digital transformation, and let my colleague maybe. Are we passing the mic, Mathieu?
Yes. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everyone. Nice to see everyone. So my name is Jean-Yves Vaisseau. I'm the head of the school with very little tech knowledge or background. But obviously, we're facing something very disruptive in education right now. So I'm going to be able to talk a little bit about that. We are partnering, my school is partnering with Humans Matter at the moment, trying to create the best conditions to optimize skills such as learning, preparedness, self-efficacy, which we sense are going to be extremely valuable in the future. And maybe we'll delve a little bit more into that.
Hi, Mathieu, thank you for welcoming us and welcoming me to this very smart panel with a lot of people with a strong education in AI. So I will try to bring my expertise, which is in HR. I spent all of my career in HR, and now I am the Chief HR Officer of Veolia North America. I will go quickly with my introduction, but in preparation of this panel discussion, so we have our own ChatGPT in Veolia, like most of you, of course for control reason and security reason. So I put some information about what Veolia is doing in terms of AI, and they gave me information. So I'm not a very good prompt engineer, so maybe I didn't ask the right question. But what we are doing, we are of course already using AI a lot in our plant. Also, as you know, we are treating water, treating waste. Okay, so in North America, it looked like we are treating solid waste, which is not the case. So I think the AI can be wrong sometimes if you don't ask the right questions, because we are doing mainly hazardous waste. Anyway, so it's really in the art of our strategy. We will come soon and presented our plan for the next 4 years. AI will be something that will be really at the heart and one of the pillars of our new strategy. I would like just to come back to something, because we have a long discussion with and it took time to prepare this panel discussion. I just would like to say that there are, in fact, in a company like us, a lot of different components on AI. There is the business that is already working in or water treatment or waste treatment. We are, let's say, dealing with a lot of data every day, and we are really, I'd say, not at the top, but we are really using a lot of AI. At the same time, in part of the business like mine, meaning HR, finance, we see that it's ongoing. It's really the beginning of the story, okay? But I would like to say that it's coming at the time where, and that was also something we discussed a lot, there is a lot of uncertainty, not in the model, like Roger told us, but in our day-to-day life, okay, professional life. That's my experience being with a company for years. I've been in a lot of transformation, but this one is coming at the time where even we have a problem of scarcity of resources in the US, and we'll talk probably about that. We have a huge problem of attrition. And finally, we have sometimes a difficulty to give purpose to the new generations, okay? So I'm just underlining that, because after we'll talk about how we will implement AI and how we do that successfully. But it's coming, this risky, it could be a risk, it could be the opportunity, but it's coming already in a context that is very rough for the big corporate like mine, But also, I have the chance to be in contact with a lot of chief of HR in US, and they have exactly the same conclusion.
Okay, I thank you, all of you. Let's, as a first topic, I hope you can hear me well. As the first topic, let's talk governance. How this transition to this massive disruption that is generative AI impacts the governance, the decision-making processes in your role. So maybe Mark, you want to kick things off?
Yeah, so in terms of government, it's not everybody used to work in government. Just to, as a reminder, what governments really think about, they think about the economy a lot, right? In democratic government, they care about being reelected for most of the politicians. So people think about jobs, the economy. You know, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know here. There's half of the world is going to election this year, including the US. The other thing that you have to remember is government/public administration. They care about two things. One is how do you impact your own country, and the second thing is how the public administration can actually use those tools to improve itself. On the first part, AI is one of these technologies that is called disruptive because it's really sweeping the rug under our feet, changing the game for everyone. It's one of those technologies that cuts across every industry and it matters to everyone. So it becomes a very competitive environment, especially for governments. One of the things that government is really trying to do is propulsing innovation and invention in particular. The government of Canada has a long-standing strategy on AI. And also programs on AI. For example, in 2017, the government of Canada, liberal government, more like the Democrats, they invested hundreds of millions of dollars on the superclusters, trying to imitate the Silicon Valley. You know, what makes the Silicon Valley a more competitive environment than, for example, you know, Detroit or some other, you know, random city, Timbuktu. So there was a lot of thoughts about this, and the idea was to create 5 hotspots across Canada, and one was dedicated on AI and supply chain. Since 2017. Just to give you an idea that Gen AI is just, it's really striking in everybody's mind right now. It's top of mind because it's B2C, it really speaks to every individual. But AI, like Roger was saying earlier, it's been out there for a long time. And the government cares about creation, invention being made in Canada, being commercialized in Canada. It cares also a lot about productivity at work. Canada fares very badly in terms of productivity in OECD ranking for many years, like a D mark. And a lot of this is because there is very poor R&D investments and also very, so businesses don't buy a lot of new technology, they don't implement new technology, and that's a little bit, that affects productivity. Recently, the government asked businesses to, again, came back to that, asking businesses to take a little more initiative there. So there is the government tries to steer it in a way. At the same time, the public administration is trying to also implement, and maybe we can talk about this a little more later. But a good example is the province of Quebec. That is put forward a strategy 2021-2026 for the use of the AI inside the government. So you probably know, I should have said, you know, Canada is always ranking at least in the top 10 of countries leading AI. You have some of the fathers or forefathers of machine learning, Geoff Hinton, Joshua Bengio. So you have a big cluster in Montreal, a big cluster in University of Toronto, another cluster Edmonton, more in the west. So the government is kind of saying, well, we have these technologies that are here. How about we use it and we implement it in the private sector, but also in government? And we can talk later about some of the challenges that means. It's a very complex change management process.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Maybe Jean-Yves, how does it look being ahead of a school? How does it impact your next steps and your strategy?
Yes, so I start with a bit of linguistics. I'm French, obviously. My job in French language is proviseur, which is it actually means the one that thinks ahead. That's what it means. So it's supposed to anticipate, I guess, the arrival of AI. And I wish I could see right now here and tell you that I did. But it's at the moment I think there's a phase from the education standpoint. We're scrambling a little bit. I think there's a phase of shock and astonishment at the possibilities. We've obviously been using some tools for about maybe 2 years now that we feel are going to be amazing. But right now there's a bit of there's a lot of conferences like this. I was in San Diego a few weeks ago with a member, Pierre. There he is over there. And 3 of the 4 keynote speakers were about AI. About a year ago, it would have been about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging. So we kind of reversed conversations at the top now of our agendas. My school, all the schools, I guess, more or less, depending on maybe some of the staff that you have are maybe more cognizant. But we are scrambling a little bit. We're supposed to find answers very quickly as well. There's you go to bed on a Sunday, Monday morning, ChatGPT is there, and you're supposed to have all the answers already, which we don't. And in general, if you look back on the past, talking about predictabilities, education as a knack has been very good at dealing with new technologies, and usually by ignoring them for quite a long time. And it happened with television first, and then the internet was supposed to change the whole outlook and the way things were going to be taught. But in fact, we still have classrooms with desks and a teacher, and I feel, and I think a lot of people feel that what is happening right now, there's a sense of urgency, and I think it's probably going to be more disruptive than others. And unlike what we do with smartphones, which is pretty much ban them or confiscate them in the classroom, I think AI is going to be very hard to confiscate or to ban because it's accessible to everyone. So this is what obviously our job is to teach a generation that is going to live through AI, with AI, and that's something that we have. It's a gap that we have to fix.
Maybe Luc, how it resonates with you. I think this sense of urgency, as you put it, Jean-Yves, is probably key for you as well.
Well, when I'm talking about Veolia, I will not talk about all the private sector, because I'm sure that, yes, we have some technology in Veolia, in our business. We are managing a lot of data. As I said, we are already using AI, but I'm sure that they will have also different kind of organization and corporate that will have a different pace of transformation, because those we are already very technologic, they will go through it very quickly. And by the way, what is happened, I'm concerned if I see my own company sometime right now, okay, in how we will have to manage, and we are on it, okay. But if you see the aging workforce that we have also, which is a reality, because it's very difficult to find and hire young graduate people in US, and I think we will talk about this, I'm sure, during the Q&A session. But I will say that what is important for us is really to put people in the middle of this transformation. And Mathieu, we discussed a lot about it, but if we don't do, and if we let our let's say CIO managing it, it's a risk. Okay, it will remain probably a technology solution and not really people solutions. Okay, so that's really where we are right now, and trying to transform in step by step. If I'm talking about the HR, my world, and I will echo what you say. I was in a Gartner show that we are gathering 5,000 people in Orlando. It was in October. There was only AI. Okay, so I don't know if it's marketing and just people with they put AI on their boost, and after they say we are doing AI, but I see really a big transformation. Okay, so it's so as a solution that can offer AI in HR. We can talk about some of them after, but I see a real acceleration of this transformation. I was really shocked to see that, and everybody has the same comment. So it's give us a lot of opportunity. But we need to put the expertise and the people around this transformation. If it's only a technological one, I think it will be rejected by some of us. So that's what we are trying to do in Veolia.
Thank you. Yeah, Alexandre, maybe last word on this one before skipping to the next topic.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on this sense of urgency, because for me, I think that's where is the trap, maybe. The urgency is not an urgency to adopt those tools. There is an urgency to take care of ourselves. It's completely different. That's where the urgency is. For me, one of the weakest link in terms of governance and public investment at the worldwide scale, it's an investment in taking care of our mental health or taking care of some. There are some initiatives based in the US and based at the Rice University in Texas. It's an initiative that is called the Brain Capital Alliance, which is, in my opinion, extremely promising. They're starting to make their voice heard. They were at the COP28 in Dubai. They were at the World Economic Forum lastly, etc., which is, in my opinion, one of the most interesting governance or public research, public-private-led initiative in the world right now. They're aiming at let's invest in our brain capital, in our mental health, and it's pretty much the same thing, in order to be able to preserve our abilities to positively use that type of technology and tools. In my opinion, that's where the urgency is. Because if we don't do that, I mean, the wake of disruption from these new tools, you can't control that. It's not possible. In our world, it's not possible to control that, because as you're saying, all the major software providers or technology providers on AI, they will invest massively in capturing your attention onto that and influencing your decision making as leaders. So this will happen. The urgency is on taking care of ourselves, on our human capabilities to make it something positive. That's where the urgency is, in my opinion. And what is massively changing also, my opinion, on this massive and rapid adoption of generative AI compared to what we have called the digital transformation, like the 10 or 15 years ago. Maybe you have heard that, but at that time, and some of us as consultants, we were even talking about digital Darwinism, is adopt this technology or die. If you don't transform, if you don't adopt the digital transformation, if you don't go to, I don't know, digital marketing, digital HR, whatever, you will die. My opinion right now, it's not the same anymore. It's not, you won't die because you don't adopt it. You will die because you are not an agent of it, which is completely different. It's not a matter of just adopting it in the sense of, I don't know, signing a big deal with Salesforce, IBM, or whoever from the cloud providers, etc. It's really a matter of how do we take care of ourselves in order to make it something, to make something positive out of it. And it's, in my opinion, a major issue. Actually.
We'll be happy to catch up with you after the conversation to maybe dig deeper. Let's maybe transition to the next topic, which is skills that are obviously like massively impacted by this discussion. What are the skills that are getting critical to acquire to stay agent in this generative AI era, right? And how does that impact your sector? So maybe Marc, you can go ahead.
Yeah, So, and also on your, maybe a quick word on your topic. I mean, another thing the government is doing also policy to try to put constraint around the acceptable use of AI. And just Canada just actually, I think it was the first country to come up with a voluntary framework you can adopt ahead of some regulations that is putting forward. The EU as well as moved earlier last year. But in terms of skills, I mean, you have to think, you know, everybody is trying to really understand what is AI and what role is going to play. We have to recognize that the pace of change is accelerating. So it's AI, quantum, and it's really moving really fast. We can see that also on the, you know, on the stock market, and those companies that are moving in and out of Fortune 100 is really accelerating compared to previous decades. So the first skill is probably how do you deal with a fast pace of change? Maybe change is becoming the new normal. So the skill that, you know, that we see, you know, in school, and that's actually put in the curriculum standards, is really more about learning how to learn, also preparing for lifelong learning, knowing that no, you won't probably have the same job over all your entire career. Maybe you have many jobs over your career, or many different trades even over your career. So we want to prepare the next generation to be able to keep learning, to keep moving forward. There is an element of literacy that you cannot avoid, because, you know, people need to be familiar with those devices. There are issues, of course, you have to see as the government, you know, you have to make sure there's some degree of equity. Not everyone, you know, is coming from the same socioeconomic status. So making sure that everybody has a fair chance to join the economy and be a fully participant to their full ability to that economy. And there is also support for teachers that you can use to help the teachers inside the classroom. I mean, I'm sure Jean-Yves will tell more about this, but to give you an example, when I was at the government in the Ministry of Education around 2008, 2010, we were working on e-learning. We were partnering with a university here in the US. They had developed a module to actually measure a little bit how students were doing, and was attempting to flag some of the students that were at the most chance of dropping out. So calling the attention of the teachers to make sure they would address something. So a little bit as a co-pilot. And now we're seeing more use with generative AI of integrating AI in the practice. For example, there's this startup in Calgary in partnership with, it's a college, in partnership with IBM that went into venturing, creating simulations so that you could learn a job, a role, by playing the role of, actually learning by doing. So you would go into an app, and the app would say, send you a message, hey, I'm your boss, you're the project manager, I'm giving you this task. And basically you'd be dialoguing with the AI, and it's actually fairly accurate. So interesting new models to develop capabilities. And let Jean-Yves dig more into this.
Maybe Jean-Yves, a few questions around like the AI is questioning our relationship to knowledge, right? We're talking about new skill to acquire. It might impact the role of the schools and maybe the position, the job of the teacher as well.
Yes. Again, like I was mentioning earlier, that it's not because, oops, my name is calling. You know, we've had tools, and we have not necessarily been very good at using them. And right now, I think the schools have been very resilient at keeping things exactly where they've always been. We have a model in education, like when we integrate technologies, called SAMR model. I don't know if it's something that is used in other fields, but it's substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And so typically you would have a notebook, and then you replace it by a computer. But with it, you do exactly the same. Looks shinier, it's a bit more expensive, but there's no really gain or anything. And then we go up, and then maybe augmentation could be using a drive to develop collaborative work, for example. And then I think a lot of what we're going to try to have to do is to actually redefine rather than substitute, and that's going to be the key. That's going to be the key thing for the people within the school as the role of the teachers. Now, are they ready now to do that? You know, it's a difficult question. We're going to need like a lot of government pushes. We're going to need a lot of policies. And training. So there's definitely a transition. I think when we prepared this, one of the questions we asked each other was, what keeps you up at night? And you know, there's a lot of things that keep me up at night. One of them definitely is what's left to teach, really. And that's for me, it's a big question. And that it goes like, you know, probably we're going to have more time. Is it still worth teaching this part of the curriculum when we can have it just like that? And then can we spend more time developing other skills, maybe mental health, maybe just teaching kids how to be happy? One of the big questions, obviously, is, are we assuming once and for all that schools are vocational? And that is something, are we preparing our students to work for big corporations, or are we preparing citizens, or are we preparing to be happy? Are the two things completely opposed? Maybe not. I don't have the answers, as you can tell. But yes, did I answer your question? Not at all.
More question actually. But
Okay,
that's good.
well, all right.
Always good. Luke, you want to go ahead? Maybe share your perspective.
Yes, I can share a couple of them. Well, the first point, and we had this discussion also with Roger. So once we agreed on something, that we'll have not enough people to feed the needs of the organizations. Okay, that's a major issue, because I mentioned the scarcity of resources in US. This is a reality right now. Is mainly the front line worker. Okay, but if I see our needs right now in terms of AI, and I see even a company like us, so we are not a small player in our world, but I will say that we are a middle player in US, okay, based in the competitions. Attracting those people will be very difficult. Okay, so it's already the case in some part of the technology, but in AI, I think it will be not impossible, but it will be very difficult. The competitions will be very rough. Okay, so what we anticipate is we have a lot of expertise inside the company. So it's and in my world, I've got many professionals. So what I will have to do is really to transfer them in a prompt engineer. Okay, so it could be a bit long. It's going to take some time, but it will never, the solution will never be an external solution for me. So the company will have the responsibility, first of all. The second point that we have is also we'll have a generation that is joining us. And I like the comment that have been done in the video by Marwan around the socializations. Okay, so that's a major issue. We have already, I mean, attrition in Veolia first year is 30%. So 30% of people are leaving us. Okay, so not all of them, they are working in a beautiful tower like this in the center of Manhattan, but some of them, they are in a very, very, let's say, isolated site. But the reality of this is that we have a permanent and strong turnover. So yes, I'm concerned by our capability to welcome them in such world. Okay, that will be a major challenge. So that we are already confronted for almost 10 years, but this is going to accelerate. Is how we are capable to let's say co-manage people coming from a new generation, working fastly, differently. Okay, and that's a discussion that we have is going to change also the way to work. So if people are working differently, they will behave differently in their work. Okay, so it will be our responsibility to manage them with my plant manager in the middle of Ohio that are 55 years old. I must not say their age because it's completely forbidden in the US, but just to give you an example, it's how we will co-manage those things, and that is going even to be worse tomorrow. So also they will have also a capability to welcome those new talents, those new people, give them a space. So we are trying to do already with the digital mindset generations, but with this with generation, it will be even hard. So a lot will be transformed internally, okay? And we have started to work on that with Veolia. So we have the chance to have a big corporate in Paris that's providing us some content. But I think we have to go deeply in different businesses. And finally, prepare ourselves to welcome a generation of people that will work differently. And that remains a big challenge because the success always comes from people. Don't forget that.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, Alexandre, a word maybe on the skill. Yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, trying not to either repeat myself or go on what you have already said, but just a few words. First, one of the key would be what we call literacy, and especially AI literacy. And that's why also we started tonight with this presentation by Roger. I mean, bear in mind that when you go from in your initial education, so maybe you were not at the école with Jean-Yves, but still you learn geometry, algebra, etc., etc. But most probably, I don't know how many of them have learned statistic, regression models, classification, etc. Maybe not a lot. And so you will have a generation of workers, citizens, etc., that will, on a daily basis, interact with those models, actually, without having a clue and at least a small and starting understanding of how it's working. That's a major challenge also. Sorry about that, but that's a major challenge. I mean, when you go to a convenience store and you pay a certain, now we all pay by card, but let's imagine you pay a certain amount of money, you know how to do a subtraction to have an idea of the money you have to get back. When you interact with an AI, if you don't have any clue of the way he is producing the sentence as a response to a prompt, that's an issue, actually. You need to have a basic literacy of that. Otherwise, it's very difficult to be at the same level as this tool. So that's the first thing. Then you talk about learning how to learn. I won't come back to that now. Maybe I will elaborate later. But the other one that is, again, for me, quite major is what we call critical thinking. So the ability to come up with clear intentions about what you want to do and how do you interpret or how do you make sense out of the information you receive. Again, that's something that hasn't been as valued as much in the recent years, because it was about acting, adopting new things, and acting and consuming, etc., etc. That's not always the best way to train your critical thinking. And your critical thinking is not only that French things of philosophers of, spending times in café, refaire le monde, as we're saying in French. Critical thinking is really making sense out of what you're living. You can't live without that, actually. And you can learn how to have very comfortable critical thinking and sleep well. I had the chance to sleep extremely well, and I'm very proud of that, actually. And you can be very critical on yourself and on your environment and sleep well. You can learn how to do that. In my opinion, you have to learn that every day, train that every day, etc., etc. It will be vital, actually. We need to be much more intentional into that, in your HR learning strategy, etc. 100% on critical thinking.
Yes, Mark, maybe the last one before transitioning to how to change concretely.
Yeah, just want to piggyback on just one thing to illustrate the last thing is actually one of the things that is a challenge in AI at the moment. Like a big insurance company from Canada has been working very closely with some of the top labs. They found out they could make work AI for their customer support. So insurance. So somebody calls They have a question about policy. Policy very complex. You have all kind of rules. Sometimes they tend to overlap or contradict themselves in some areas. AI can summarize it and push some kind of answer for the customer. And the agent reviews it and can change some things and push that as accept the answer or modify it and then send it. So we had very interesting conversations because that person from the insurance company was saying, well, AI does work. It does actually pull something that kind of makes sense. However, the question is to determine whether it is actually the optimum answer. Some issues there. Sometimes AI pull you two alternate variation. Which one should you choose? Which one is the optimum one? So there is a kind of an element at least at this point in time, the human needs to be in the loop to decide. There is another issue that comes to it is that the training data for AI that actually builds, I mean, where the data and this prediction, like Rogers was saying, this prediction comes from some kind of data that, you know, the machine learned from. It's not always optimum data. You basically take pretty much all the data you can get, and there's some very good data, some very good answers, some very bad answers. And you might get at the end some kind of average or something that's maybe not optimum out of this. So these are the questioning that these people from the insurance have right now about, you know, how can we provide the best service to the customer, the right answer to the customer.
Okay, right. We have to stop at some point, unfortunately. Let's transition to the last dimension of our discussion, which is so concretely change management and training. So how do we change? We define a target in terms of skills. We understand it. We rationalized it, right? So how do we get there? How do we transition to action? So maybe the first one for you, Alexandre, in terms of innovation. You're head of innovation at HMS Matter, so you might have an interesting perspective on what's up in the market.
I don't know if I will talk about what's up on the market. Maybe I will talk about what we are trying to do. So first, the thing is that you really have to consider everything that is happening as a huge learning process. Everyone is learning about how do we deal with that. You don't have any, we might appear knowledgeable about the topic, but we are in the middle of a huge experimentation, trying to figure out what can we do out of that. So really consider this transformation as a huge learning process and learning as a kind of permanent experimentation. And every single people that would say, this is what you have to do, I'm sure about that, no doubt, etc. It's very suspicious. We don't know exactly what is currently happening. So you need to stay very open-minded and critical about that in order to be able to learn. Then, in my opinion, one of the ways to change positively and to adopt that positively is really to position AI at the service of the re-education of our critical thinking. And for me, that's where we can change the game. It's not about, okay, what do we have to do to adopt AI, which could be like a classical change management approach. Huh? There are new tools. It's very positive for productivity, for talent retention, whatever. How do we change in order to adopt that? My point is to say that might not be the right question. The right question might be, how can we use that in order to re-educate ourselves and to take care of ourselves? And in my opinion, if we engage into that, that would be something very, very positive. And so we are running some experimentation. So we have created our own kind of a chatbot that we have called Buddy IA. So it works in French as a Buddy IA because the AI in French is IA. Anyway, so Buddy AI. Okay. And so it's something we use the API of OpenAI to build that. And so it's not something that is giving you some answers. It's something that is helping you asking yourself the right questions. So we qualify that as a myotech, you know, like the myotics of Socrates. It's a myotech. So it's something that will describe your situation with a few different elements, and then it will propose you. It will prompt you, so the AI is prompting you with some options on the question that is relevant for you. And so that's something we are currently experimenting in training context. And that's something we believe in as, let's say, a very positive usage of AI at the service, basically, of our critical thinking and agency. We are not the only one to work on that kind of stuff. There are other companies or startups that are trying to take that angle of really leveraging technology at the service of developing our skills and not using our skills at the service of the adoption of those tools. For me, that's where we need to change the game.
Maybe a quick one in terms of innovation, in terms of pedagogical journeys. What does like the expertise in cognitive science says about how to structure that, and what could be the key insight in terms of implementing with more efficiency, like center that around the humans better?
Well, the first thing it says is that it takes time, and sometimes we forget that. Maybe the ones that are in the learning part of their companies or organization, you have been a massive trend of micro learning. Now we are talking about nano learning, so very small nuggets of knowledge that you will consume during your commuting, etc., etc. I mean, learning takes time. You need to take time to absorb knowledge. You need time to live some experiences that will create this knowledge and make it transferable in other contexts. So first, I think we need to be a little bit more aware that if we want to learn new things and if we want to raise our level of knowledge and critical thinking up to that challenge, it will take some time, and we need to leverage some time into that. Then you have a lot of other factors, but I will spend an hour looking into that on what are the core human factors that allows an individual to integrate sustainably new knowledge. But first, if you can manage to spend time and to save time for learning, that will be a very good start.
Maybe a question for Luc. One of the key driver in terms of change or ability of an organization is the question of acceptability. I think we discussed that when we were preparing for this discussion. Do you want to share your feeling on this one?
Yes, good question. What I can say about this, acceptability. I will share with you a quick, let's say, anecdote, as we say in French. But I was just a couple of days before holidays, and I would like to send a nice word to my team. So I, of course, as you know, I'm a French speaker, so my writing English is not really perfect. So I call my assistant and I ask her, "Can you help me?" Because I was in the middle of a lot of things. And 5 minutes later on, she sent me something like, "Wow!" And I say, "Well, but so she's using ChatGPT pretty well." Okay, so. And I'm thinking about that because I will not talk about her age, but she has a strong seniority. Okay, so I think that everybody can use it. Okay, it's not only so I talk about the generational, let's say, challenge that we will have, but it was true with the internet in the end of the 90s, and it's true with a lot of transformation. And I'm completely convinced that generation, even the all elders that we have in our company, will adopt this very quickly. I have no major issue with that. It's more that some company have the culture that are more or less open on some transformation, and that's for us in Veolia, based on my last 2 years, a big challenge. Okay. Coming back to because we discussed also a lot about the learning. I see 2 different levels. The level that we have at group level in Veolia, we have launched a lot of workshop, but again, at certain parts, we are at the beginning. Yeah? So, and I fully agree with you. I will not promote here something like we are at the top. There is a lot of companies that are probably ahead, and a lot of companies that are just wondering how they are going to address it. Okay, so a lot of things are coming from the group. Okay, in terms of content. Okay, digital content that we can have on AI, also some workshop that we are starting to spread all around the organization, and also some even today's training around generative AI. After everyone is also, as a leader, responsible to see how he's going to impact his business. Okay, and in my part in HR, I see a lot of transformation and opportunities. We talk a lot about the talent acquisition, but there are a lot of things that are already done and pretty efficient. Okay, so the question is the debate that we can have in a few minutes when you will ask us your question is, Alexandre, that thing, what are going to do people with their 70% of I like your comment, by the way, because it was my example that they will have more time to do more interesting things that only transactional. But it's a remain a challenge because people that used to work with a lot of transactional, it's difficult sometimes to ask them to be more strategical, for instance, based on my personal experience. So anyway, so a lot of things is going on, but I think it will be every leader responsibility to see also how it's going to impact the job, his organization. It's a major issue because again, when I'm thinking about my experience in HR, I've been 25 years in HR. I see some part of HR where it's going to simplify things. Okay, some of them it will be difficult. My big wish at the end is when we are talking about skills, it will be a huge opportunity. Well, I mean, I've been I don't want to be too HR technical, but I've been with those reference skills for almost 20 years, and I've never seen any of them succeeded. Okay, so here with AI, probably it could be a huge opportunity to better use it.
Okay, yeah. Mark, you wanted maybe to react to this?
I'm just gonna share what I learned through the time at the ministry where we're actually driving results, consistently over all these years, and I learned a lot. Some of the first lesson learned is you have to admit that you don't know everything, and start learning and learning from scientists. So one of the major advisor of the government was a specialist in education systems, comparative education systems. So he did a lot of research, wrote a lot of books, just brought him in. He was directly an advisor to the Minister of Education. We also consulted a lot of data specialists from the University of Toronto to drill down the data, to find out which indicators, which metrics we should follow. And we were very thorough at following those metrics very consistently and analyzing what the data was trying to tell us. So under the guidance of these professors from U of T, we invited cognitive scientists. We looked at neuroscience to see if the tablets were not affecting children in their education. We invited authors like one that I remember quite vividly, Mark Prensky. He wrote about digital natives, still a very good book. And the pedagogy of, forget the sage on the stage. It's more like a collaborative. The professor is more like a guide, supporting students in their own learning kind of thing. I remember we were all reading his book, and we were kind of actually having a little bit of a circle of reading circle to share what we were learning. And these were people like of all ages at the government, in the Ministry of Education, former principals, former superintendents. We're just all kind of sharing our learning. So you have to be very modest, very humble, and try things out. We didn't know much about technology. Government is not very good in creating new technology, so we partner with startups. So a startup, starting e-learning, and we just partner with them, give them a chance. Actually, it did very well for their business also in the process, but also helped us because they wanted to partner with us, and they were actually making a lot of changes to their platform to accommodate our needs and the researchers' needs. So that's really my takeaway. We really have to be open and work with some experts in the field.
Jean, do you want to add a last word, and then we?
Yeah, no, it's fine. Quick. Obviously, chances are, if you went to school, you were taught by someone who had no idea what learning meant because there was no research. It's a very brand new cognitive science and the science of what's going on in your brain when you learn something, what it makes you a good learner. Is something that's very, very new, and that's why we partner with Humans Matter on this, because it's really about trying to leverage that learning, what gives you pleasure in learning, and that's something like, so we can be optimistic because we did pretty well, right? Even though we had no science behind it, so I think now we can develop that.
So I think thanks a lot for your inputs. Thank you all for attending. There's more wine, more food, so let's mingle. Thank you.
Thank you.